Roll Tide, everyone, and welcome to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by Kira Goldstein, and Kira, the Tide keep rolling, now off to a 4-0 start in 2020.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a nail-biter. It all took place in prime time on CBS in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
It wasn't the start the Tide was looking for. First play on offense, Mac Jones is hit as he delivered the ball and went flying into the air, and the diving play made by the Georgia defender as he came away with the interception. However, the Tide defense returned the favor. The Stetson Bennett pass was batted by DJ Dale into the arms of Justin Aboigbe. 3 plays later, it's Mac Jones to John Mechie as those two connect on a 40-yard touchdown, and at this point, 7-0 Crimson Tide. After a couple of Georgia touchdowns, the Tide and the Bulldogs would swap field goals. Trailing 17-10, Mac Jones connected with Devontae Smith for the 17-yard touchdown, tie game in T-Town. Georgia retook the lead with just 23 seconds remaining before the half, 24-17. The Crimson Tide pushed down the field, and Will Reichard nailed a 52-yard field goal, a career long, as time expired to give the Tide the momentum going into halftime, but still trailing Georgia 24-20.
The Alabama defense took over the game in the second half as the Tide D held the Bulldogs scoreless. Just over 4 minutes remaining in the third quarter, still down 24-20, 2nd and 9 from their own 10-yard line. Jalen Waddle battled through the Bulldogs defender, and Mac Jones hit him perfectly in stride. Roger, you're not going to catch him from behind like that. 90 yards, touchdown, Crimson Tide, and just like that, Bama is back on top, 27-24. Najee Harris added a 2-yard score with 51 seconds remaining in the third to extend the Tide's lead to double digits, 34-24. And then in the fourth, another incredible grab by Devontae Smith. A great throw here by Mac Jones. And you know, this one looks a lot like that touchdown Smitty had in the Texas A&M game.
Roll Tide.
13 yards for the score. What a second half for the Tide. Alabama outscored number 3 Georgia 21-0 in the second half as Alabama makes a statement with the 41-24 win.
Great win for Alabama. Big performance by Mac Jones. He was selected as the Southeastern Conference Offensive Player of the Week for the second time this season. Jones completed 24 of 32 for 75% of his passes as he finished with 417 yards and 4 touchdowns in the win. This was the third straight 400-yard passing performance for Mac Jones.
Mac Jones is on fire. That performance helped Alabama pick up 6 more first-place votes this week, and Alabama took Georgia's lone first-place vote and 5 from Clemson.
Clemson and Alabama remain at the top. Notre Dame and Georgia swap places this week, and with the upset loss to Florida State, North Carolina drops out of the top 5, and Ohio State, the Buckeyes, return this week. They now take their spot at number 5.
Joining Alabama and Georgia in the top 10 this week is Texas A&M. The Aggies jumped up 4 spots to number 7, and Florida remains at 10. Auburn and Tennessee fell out of the top 25 completely.
Well, it was the game of the year so far in college football this season. Number 2 Alabama against number 3 Georgia. Coming up, we'll give you an all-access look back at the Tide's big win over the Georgia Bulldogs.
Tide TV This Week presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. The University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
What a fun night it was on Saturday night in Bryant-Denny, Roger. The atmosphere was great, the weather was fantastic, and the Tide took care of business against number 3 Georgia. So now it's time to focus on the Bulls.
A great night it was. Before we preview the upcoming matchup against Tennessee, let's take an all-access look back at that big win over the Georgia Bulldogs. This all-access feature is brought to you by Legacy of Hope.
In practice, they call it ones against ones, best on best. That's what we've got tonight, strength on strength. When you look at these two teams, it's been remarkable what we've seen so far through 3 weeks. And Alabama offense is number 1 in the country, and Georgia defense is number 1 in the country.
It's going to be the heavyweight fight tonight where, you know, who's going to flinch.
Nick Saban will lead him out. As Jamie said 3 days ago, that was a question mark. It is no longer. Perfect night for football in Tuscaloosa. Bennett across the middle, and we saw this last week. It's picked off, yes. And Aboigbe's got an interception.
and now great field position starting at the 42-yard line as we come out.
For Alabama, play action. Mac Jones wants it all. Long ball, man there, got him. Mechie, touchdown.
Got him in the corner blitz. So John Mechie matched up versus the safety there. No chance, like you said, on the double move. Great throw from Mac Jones.
Fakes, running out of time, and down he goes.
The first sack of the ball game. Throws. It's taken by Cook for a touchdown.
It's a lot of football left. Go out and make a play and finish this game strong.
Be patient with your adjustments. It's a long game. Don't panic. So early things happen, but just stick with the game plan.
Complete for a first down, and my goodness.
Now that is a receiver you love to throw to.
Bennett looks left quickly and throws, deflected at the line of scrimmage.
He's been getting it batted down.
Play fake. Mac Jones wants a bunch. Going deep. Out there and caught. Jalen Waddle. Jones fires to the corner. Devontae Smith. Touchdown, Alabama.
Beautiful play call from Sarkisian and great execution from Alabama.
Looking for a field goal here to get out of the half.
Forrestall. Nice catch across midfield on the near sideline.
Throws over the middle and it's caught. And it's a first down and it's Waddle.
3 seconds. They do have time to ground it. 3 seconds is the limit.
Kirby Smart saying, let's head to the locker room, boys.
I don't know.
Well, Georgia's whole team is over in the tunnel right now.
1 second was left when the pass was incomplete.
Now we got a chance for a big field goal right here from Will Riker.
The snap, the spot, the kick on the way.
Big kick for Bama, as now everybody can head to the locker room. Down the middle, and he went to Burton, and he knocked it away.
Beautiful job by John Jones.
Wants to go deep, and Waddle has got it on the run, and he's gone.
90 yards.
Another explosive play like we've seen from Alabama all year long.
That was pretty.
Quick snap, Bennett, deep middle, ricocheted and intercepted. Malachi Moore coming back the other way.
Malachi Moore in the right position and does a great job returning it out. Maybe looking for a shot here from the first down play from our offense.
Little flea flicker, throws long for Devontae. He'll dive and make the grab at the 10-yard line.
Najee Harris, touchdown, Alabama.
Big time play for Alabama.
Bennett's in trouble. Throws on the run, and it's intercepted. Picked off in the secondary by Alabama. And it's Daniel Wright.
Finally starting to get back home when it matters the most in the fourth quarter.
We do this, baby!
Mac Jones, pressure coming from behind, allowed to the end zone. Devontae Smith, touchdown. Are you kidding me? That is some grace.
I appreciate you.
You know, I like the second half a whole lot more than the first half tonight.
You're not lying. What a half for the defense of not giving up any points. 5 drives, no points allowed so far in the second half. We just got to hammer out the win. And to me, our offensive line is a little bit stronger than they have all night.
And Alabama keeps running for first downs and chewing up clock. Another first down.
Takes a knee. The crowd cheering. Statement made. Bama leaves no doubt. Bama 41. Georgia 24.
It's a great win for our team. It's a great win for our fans. You know, Georgia's got a great team, and this was the kind of game I guess you come to Alabama to play.
All of the day's work.
Tide TV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. After the big win at home over Kirby Smart and the third-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, Coach Saban and the Tide face yet another one of his former assistants this week.
Alabama travels to Knoxville this weekend to take on former Crimson Tide assistant coach and player Jeremy Pruitt and the Tennessee Volunteers. To preview the Tide's matchup with the Big Orange this week, our Christopher England joins us now. Christopher?
To preview this week's matchup between the Crimson Tide and the Tennessee Volunteers, I'm joined once again by former Alabama quarterback and current Crimson Tide Sports Network analyst, John Parker Wilson.
What's going on, man? It's good to join you again after a win, a big, huge win, 2 versus 3 in the country. That doesn't get much bigger than that, so nice to see Alabama pull it out.
Big win, a great atmosphere. It was a great night in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now over to Tennessee, this week's game, John Parker. After the first 2 weeks, Tennessee was 2-0 and ranked 14th in the nation with wins over South Carolina and Missouri. But the last 2 weeks have been polar opposites as the Volunteers have lost by more than 20 to Georgia and Kentucky and have fallen all the way out of the top 25. What has happened to the Volunteers?
You know, they've become extremely one-dimensional on offense, a ton of turnovers. And, you know, really they went into the Georgia game with a lead at halftime and then really haven't been the same team since then. To me, though, they're still trying to find their identity, especially on offense. And against those two good teams, and I think Kentucky's got a pretty good defense too. They didn't do a very good job, you know, playing multiple quarterbacks. Haven't found a big play receiver on the outside yet. So, you know, be another challenge for Tennessee as Alabama's getting some steam on their defensive side of the ball.
The Tennessee defense is around the middle of the SEC in rush defense, allowing over 148 yards per game, but the Volunteers are pretty good in the pass defense, giving up just 213, while the Tide has the #1 offense and top passing offense in the conference. Do you think the Tennessee defense will slow down this Alabama passing attack, or are the explosive plays just too hard to stop?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's not a lot of weaknesses on our offense. The ability to stay balanced and have the run and pass ability is going to be tough for Tennessee this week, but also teams for the rest of the season. I mean, right now, Mac Jones is firing on all cylinders in the passing game with Devontae Smith. I mean, such a big game from him, Jalen Waddle, John Mechie, and then the offensive line and Najee Harris's ability this week against Georgia to run the ball. It's so unpredictable, it's tough. So they can beat you with the run, but also have been extremely accurate on those deep, down-the-field explosive plays. So when they dial them up, they're executing them, hitting them. A lot of that has to do with the ability of Najee running the ball, cheats those safeties up, cheats those corners up. And last week against Georgia, Alabama took advantage of it. So need more of that same from Alabama against Tennessee of being two-dimensional running and passing.
Well, now, on the Alabama defense, they shut out the third-ranked Georgia Bulldogs in the second half. While it looks like the Alabama defense is improving, you can't say the same for the Tennessee offense. 3 interceptions last week against Kentucky, including 2 pick sixes, -1 rushing yards on 27 attempts against Georgia. And the head coach, Jeremy Pruitt, played 3 quarterbacks in the 34-7 loss of the Wildcats. We really don't even know who's going to get the start against the Tide on Saturday. Is this a good matchup for the Alabama defense at the right time?
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. When we learned a lot against Ole Miss, there wasn't a good production, wasn't a good game for our defense, but I saw a lot against Georgia. They came in, they had a good game plan, and then at halftime, we're able to make some adjustments and then come out, like you said, give up 0 points in the second half. That's big against a really good Georgia team. So they're starting to get some confidence, and I think this week it's all about our defense. It just doesn't matter who's a quarterback or who's a running back. It's going out there and executing, and that's what we saw in the second half was very limited mental errors, which you've heard Coach Saban talked about, and they just went out and played fast. They created turnovers. This defense is the best when they create turnovers. You can see the energy out there on the field. You can see it rubbing off on the offense and special teams. So this defense thrives on turnovers. They've done it since Coach Saban's been there. And against this Tennessee ball team that struggled, I think we've got to go out and do it again this week.
Well, thank you, John Parker. Looking forward to the Tide hopefully making it 14 in a row over the Vols.
Can't wait. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide kickoff is scheduled for 2:30. You can watch the game live on CBS. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV this week coming up next.
Welcome back. Roger, I feel like I say this every week, but it was another incredible week in the NFL and some big-time performances from some of our former Crimson Tide stars.
Well, that's because you do say it every week. Let's take a look at our Crimson Tide players in the NFL, brought to you by BBVA.
Julio had a big game. Kenyon Drake finished with 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this week, we got to talk about the King. King Henry, the AFC Offensive Player of the Week, finished with 212 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, including a 94-yard score and the game winner in overtime. The Heisman Trophy winner also added 52 receiving yards.
Pretty impressive on the defensive side. We'll go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Minka Fitzpatrick leading just 3-0. Fitzpatrick had a pick six, a 33-yard interception return for a touchdown off of Baker Mayfield, and the Steelers win over the Cleveland Browns.
Hey, Roger, guess what?
What?
It's Tua time! It's Tua time. Tua got in the game for 5 snaps in the Miami Dolphins win over the New York Jets. He was 2 for 2, 9 yards, and then he was named the starting quarterback.
Well, the Dolphins have a bye week this week, and Tua will get his first start against the Los Angeles Rams on November 1st. I guess you could say in 2 weeks.
Very funny, Roger. Are you excited to see Tua play?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know our director, Seth, is excited too. He's a huge Dolphins fan. I personally can't wait because it is finally Tua time.
Yeah, you've been asking for it all season. Now it is finally here. So after winning the season opener and being ranked 15th in the nation, the Crimson Tide soccer team hasn't been able to put a win in the win column since then. The Tide looked to correct that this past Sunday against the Ole Miss Rebels.
Overall, the Tide outshot the Rebels by a 10-8 margin while also edging the Ole Miss squad 9-2 in corners. But it was the Rebels who managed to get the ball into the net. Just over 9 minutes into the match, off the throw-in and the bounce, Channing Foster headed it into the net for the goal. And then in the 50th minute, the Rebels' Mo O'Connor fired off a shot, and Tana Sanchez-Corretto was positioned perfectly for the deflection. However, the ball deflected from her leg right into the net for an own goal. That would make it 2-0, and that would be the final score.
The Alabama women's golf team finished with 3 top 25 finishes at the Alley at the Old Waverly Golf Course this week in West Point, Mississippi. Emily Overis tied for 12th, Polly Mack finished 16th, and Kenzie Wright tied for 22nd. As a team, Alabama finished 8th out of 15.
Stay with us. We'll have our plays and players of the week coming up next.
Here's Mack. He's got a man. It's caught into the hands of John Mechie. Touchdown, Alabama! The snap, the spot, the kick on the way. Good from 52 yards. Pressure's coming. He'll throw long. Waddle's got it behind the defense. Leaves the DB on the ground. 90 yards. Mack looks. End zone. Up goes Devontae. Touchdown! Wow!
Welcome back. Those are our ATI Plays of the Week. Now let's take a look at the Players of the Week, brought to you by Payless Drugs.
Mac Jones threw for over 400 yards for the 3rd consecutive game as he finished with 417 yards and 4 touchdowns against the nation's top-ranked defense. Jones finished with a passer rating of 219.5 and was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week for the 2nd time this season.
Pretty impressive from Mac Jones, and on the other end, a lot of Mac Jones's throws were to Devontae Smith. Devontae finished with a team highs of 11 catches and 167 yards with 2 touchdowns.
Those are our Payless Drugs Players of the Week.
Thanks for watching. We hope to see you next week. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.
This has been a presentation from Learfield IMG College.